Hey guys, my name is Mark Todd. This is Mark Said Art. I'm holding my mic today because it's clingy and having distance issues. We're going to talk though about traditional art versus digital art. We're going to use two well-known digital artists to illustrate this. We're going to use a Sam Does Arts and we're going to use a Wallop. I think it's pronounced Wallop, W-L-O-P. Now, I'm not teaching you how to paint like Sam or how to paint like Wallop or here's their secrets. Only Sam knows his dark, dirty secrets, and maybe his therapist or his Patreon followers, which brings up the point that Sam has a YouTube, he has a Patreon, he has a Gumroad, so does Wallop, and they might have other sources too I'm unaware of. Why would you go to a stranger to learn something that somebody is teaching from the source? So I personally don't get videos like that. The only thing we're using them for is a study. It would be one thing, if we're people do corrections of people's artwork or whatever else, but to just say I'm going to teach you how to paint like them, that's a little odd to me. So this is the piece we're going to be studying today by Sam, and I'm just going to use a cheap, inexpensive paint with hobby shop materials, so you can see what you can do for a budget. On the wall, I'll use a professional paint. Otherwise, we'll use inexpensive materials too, so you can see what you could get when you're starting off. This is not going to be a one-for-one exact, but as it's a study, it'll be very similar. I start with a line art sketch, and at this stage I think it's prudent to take a little extra time, because in digital art where you have liquify and cut and paste and things like that, it's going to take a little bit more work to correct mistakes traditionally. Typically speaking, you also always want to work big to small. So start with your big shapes and then later add in small things. Some traditional artists you'll see out there, they'll start at a section and it'll be like a finished painting where it hits and it just spreads out from there. And it's very satisfying to watch. This for me is way too much commitment. I mean, what if I want to change something later? What if I don't like the colors or how something's coming out and got all this detail committed in there? I prefer a little different approach, and that is to basically make it look like a child went to town on my line art. Get down our colors, and we're just kind of blocking them in. Now, when you're blending your colors and you're doing it digitally, you have a second brain to help you out, and it gets what you're trying to do. So your computer can step in and be like, I know what you meant, and it fixed that. Then in the real world, unfortunately, you got one brain. So when you're blending two colors, I recommend not just blending the two colors, but mixing a third color that is between the two colors and then blending that in to give you a smoother transition. You might not be smooth in life, but there's no reason your painting can't be. Sam has a very unique way of simplifying. He's very good at just making a few lines in the background and letting it tell the story. Here's the thing though, if somebody's showing you how to write and you, instead of just copying the letters A, B, C, D, you thought that you needed to copy the way they write, their handwriting style, it is going to be very difficult. That is true in art as well. Don't try to make it look exactly the way they're doing it. Make the same letters, if you will. So you're going to make similar shapes or similar shadows or whatever it might be. It's true with the things in the background. So the fur, the sword, the arrows, I try to just give them a little more simplification, but I did a semi-realistic simplification. I didn't want them to look, though, too real or too off, because Sam is also trying to draw attention to the face. Most artists simplify things they don't want you to look at and give more detailed things they do want to look at. And Sam, I find, does this quite a bit. If you look at the background, a lot of things are just kind of scribbled in. The arrows are very simple the way they're done. So I'm going to put in a little bit more detail in the fur and the arrows, but it'll still be simpler. The skin, hair, and eyes I glazed to give a little bit more depth and some transparency. Normally you would glaze light to dark. However, the skin and some of those areas I did color correct a little bit and go lighter instead based on the study. You want particularly your skin and your eyes to have a transparency. If your skin is too opaque, it won't look real. Skin is translucent. That's why you can see veins through it. You ever see somebody and they just have like way too much makeup and it's just way too opaque and it just makes them look plastic? That's what happens if you can't see through the skin. You need to look at it and say, oh, that skin has some oil on it. That skin has some translucency to it. Your eyes also, you've got on the lens, it's kind of like that jelly in there. You want something where it kind of looks like you can see into it. Unfortunately, my camera's not able to pick up a lot of this glazing effect. And for those who don't know, glazing is when you put a transparent layer over another layer so you can see through it. This gives you a translucency but it also makes it so the colors mix together, and it gives you a look you can't achieve any other way. This glazing effect can also be seen as the hair goes over the face, such as, for instance, the eye on the right side. You just glaze through, you can still see the eye behind it, but you could give that look of wispy hair, so it's still thin. This is similar to the digital art where you put on a transparency. In the end, despite it being a cheap paint and brushes and just hobby shop canvas, I think it came out all right. If I had to say my biggest disappointment by far would be in my camera. My cell phone is just not able to pick up what I'm seeing on the canvas and put it here. You can't see the glazing well, you can't see things going through. We'll talk about that more in the third video, but for right now, here is a side-by-side comparison of what we have finished and what Sam had done. And like I say, it's like the alphabet. We're not necessarily trying to make the handwriting the same, but we want to follow the same letters. So same lettering, same things, but we'll talk about the differences on when you do something traditionally versus when you do something digitally in the third video. The next video is going to be the one with Wallop, and we'll use a professional paint. We'll still use hobby shop brushes and canvas, so you can kind of get still a little bit of feel for that budget range. Now, if you like to be the first to do something, this is the first video on this channel, so you can be the first likes, the first subscribes, the first shares, the first commenters. I appreciate you guys all sticking it through to the end. We'll see you on the next video.